If there's anything that I can ever be extremely consistent with, it's the ability to constantly bring back Fireside Bricky, only to immediately then forget about Fireside Bricky or get too busy to then do Fireside Bricky. It's just a pretty solid constant with me, I think. It's just something I'm getting too used to doing. Anyway, that being aside, welcome everybody to Fireside Bricky. I'm Bricky. And today we're going to be grabbing some questions from the Fireside Bricky chat of the Discord, my Discord, a link you can find in the description. And we can go ahead and do some discussions about things in life and things and things. Make sure you grab yourself a drink and or some chips. Don't know, well, it doesn't really have to be chips, I suppose. It could really be anything. A protein bar, could be a bowl of cereal, could be a piece of chicken, multiple pieces of chicken. No one's telling you you can't have more than one piece of chicken. You can, play as much chicken as you like. Anyway, that's not really that's not really important. That's not true. I like chicken. I like chicken. Full stop. It's fun. Anyway, let's go ahead and read a couple of these little messages here and see what we got going on, We'll start with one that's a little bit less based around life and stuff, and something that's a little bit more topical, I guess, with some things. Good old Anime Police, which, as a name, I'm already kind of appreciating, says, here I got one. What do you think about the current direction gaming is falling into? As in $70 being the base price and the lackluster games being made for this price point, among other issues. So $70 price point for games is something that I don't really think a lot of us can really say much about. Inflation has been going up kind of across the board ever since COVID. I mean, it's always going up. It's the point of inflation, but ever since COVID, it kind of got really bad. But it's like inflation going up kind of affects everybody. Like all your employees also have to pay more money and things and should be getting raises if they can. And I don't know, it's different because of AAA games versus smaller games and the like. But I kind of am a little surprised we've been on the $60 route for so long. I mean, I think I bought COD 4 in 2007 for $60. It might have been $50. It could have been, but not like only going up $10 over the past, 16 years, 15 and a half years is pretty darn, I don't know. It doesn't seem exceptionally crazy to see it finally be at $70 right now. I'm always not super against the whole game price point thing, or I don't like talking about it much. Mainly because there's too many factors that go into it. Overall economic inflation, economic state of stuff is one thing. And then you have to factor in microtransactions, if that's a thing that the game has, how prevalent they are, what kind of microtransactions are they. Then you have to look at free games, but the free games that are loaded with microtransactions. And then obviously I'm in a financial position that is better than most people. So what $70 is for me, especially because it's a business write-off when I play it on stream and stuff, is totally different than $70 on somebody else's world. But at the same time, my biggest hangup is just, I feel like video games give you a price per enjoyment that's just so far and above every other piece of media out there. It's kind of insane just to the extent that video games provide you with entertainment and how many hours they do provide you. And almost nothing else out there gives you that same amount of volume, at least in terms of just money. It's kind of crazy. And I can't necessarily say that it's something that I'm very I don't know, upset about, at least for the $60 to $70 thing. Because I think of a movie, right? You go get a movie ticket. How much are movie tickets nowadays? Last time I went to a theater, I think it was $13.50, but I haven't been to a theater in God knows how long. And then So my mind like maybe $15, but I've heard movie tickets going like to like $18, and it depends on if you're getting food with it and that kind of stuff. But having three people go to the movie theaters, if it's let's say it's $18, that would make it $54 for three people going to the movie theaters. I mean, hell, if you make it four people going to see a 2 hour movie, that's about the cost of a single video game, and a single video game being you do like the 2 hour movie times 4, 8 hours of game time. Most video games now provide more than 8 hours of game time. Also, more replayability than most movies because, I mean, while movies are definitely very rewatchable and don't have a very big barrier to entry, replaying a video game has all kinds of cool stuff to go because you can completely alter how it is, different types of gameplay styles, and whether a game has single player, multiplayer, different kinds of single player, build craft. I mean, it all depends on the game. So to be kind of frank with you, I'm kind of shocked $70 wasn't sooner. Now, the hang up we have is the first part of the question, which is, what do you think about the current direction gaming is falling into? Or actually, no, it's more the last part, which is the base price and the lackluster games being made at this price point. Now, that second part, now that is a lot more important because the lackluster games being made at this price point is a gigantic issue. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Redfall as well are just like travesties of video games. Absolute travesties. As far as, I mean, you can always get a dud, you know. Let's not, I'm going to use the movie comparison only because it's a different piece of media. That's somewhat easy to explain. But when it comes to something like, you know, a movie, you're paying the same price almost across the board for movies that are generally, if they're in the theaters, pretty heavily varied in quality. Then again, the movie still runs well. Star Wars doesn't. So there is that problem. It's hard. I mean, you can't necessarily have the idea of like, how dare this video game charge $70 because it's bad. If it's bad, it's bad. You wait for a sale, you just don't damn buy the game. But if it's $70 and it's just anemic in terms of content, well, that's a whole other thing. That kind of goes with like the Anthem issue. Because I remember Anthem having its gameplay was actually pretty darn fun. But at least I remember flying around the Javelin was pretty cool. But everything else about Anthem was kind of shit. So that was the problem, is that there was no real end game, no real ability to join into that looter shooter world that everyone tries to break into, from getting out of Destiny's realm and that kind of stuff, or trying to break into Destiny's realm more so. And then when you're trying to build up this whole ecosphere of video games and trying to determine like what their worth is, what worth is means so much to so many other people. It's a little tough also to refer to the trend, because we could talk about the current direction gaming is falling into, but I mean, well, I guess it doesn't quite count because it's a remake, but you know, the Metroid Prime, Dead Space, and Resident Evil 4, all remakes, but all the remakes are like 10 out of 10, right? Apparently they're just like all incredible. I mean, Resident Evil 4 felt like a goddamn masterpiece, and that was incredible. And that thing ran like butter. Last of Us Part 1 was just re-upped, and that also had a terrible PC port. But at the same time, Sony tried to do a PC port before with God of War, and I'm pretty sure the God of War 2018's PC port was like the best PC port ever made by mankind. Like the Greeks were looking at their statues and thinking, God, I wish this ran as well as God of War 2018 on PC. But like AAA industry, if we're pulling away from the whole price point thing, because there's just so much variation in that. You know, I mean, hell, you might look at Destiny and say it's not worth the money, despite the fact that the content it gives you, like hour per dollar, is insanity levels high. You know, for the amount of content you can get from your dollar. But on the other hand, that might not be what you're looking for. a $60 or I guess $70 to you might be an 8 hour narrative focused game and that's it. And that might be enough for you. At the end of the day, it's media, it's experience. It does, is John Wick or Mad Max Fury Road movies with just over an hour and actually Mad Max Fury Road runtime. Oh, it's exactly 2 hours. Huh. I thought it was shorter than that. That movie flies by. I thought it was like an hour and 30. I was thinking about like hours and 30 minutes, but like movies that are an hour and a half are not any better or worse than movies that are 3 hours. It depends on what you're getting from it. If 3 hours is what you need to tell your story, then that's one thing. If an hour and a half is what you need. Granted, I will say movies are getting a little too long nowadays. All these 3 hour long films, like I'm getting kind of tired of it. Go back to an hour and 30, please, or at least like an hour and 45. Keep it 2 hours or lower. It's getting a bit long nowadays. Do people, the AAA market is almost feels like this wild case of throwing something at a wall and hoping it's the next big thing. EA has their multiple cash cows, mainly their sports games, but also Apex. Apex is a free game, but Apex just shoves those microtransactions in your face. I like Apex as a game a lot because, Titanfall simp and all that, and it's the closest we're going to get. But at the same time, they just make hand over fist amounts of money on that game. Destiny makes a ton of money. I mean, GTA 5, I think, is the game that has made the most money out of any video game ever. Like I believe it's not the most sold, but GTA 5, I think, has made the most money out of any video game ever made in man. But the rest of their games, I mean, obviously they don't keep the upkeep for the various people who make them. Because, games take a while. Games are expensive as hell, and staff is expensive as hell. Good staff. And in order to make back your money, you really got to pull out something pretty good. And so I'm assuming that most AAA companies just kind of ride along on microtransactions and various other games like that to try to fund other projects, hoping that will be the next big hit. Hoping, at least. Indie games and stuff are obviously different, but indie games often garner an indie price tag. But then there are other things you have to note, like, okay, you might make X amount of money from your game, but you have to lose a certain percentage of your profits by the cut split that Steam and stuff takes. And then you need to also look at something like, I guess taxes are part of it. You don't get to keep all your money, so to speak. The government likes to have some of it, unless enough of your deductions make it proper. But taxes are a whole other thing. I don't care who the Inquisition says or sends. I am not paying taxes. But I don't know. It's kind of hard. I guess at the end of the day, my question is, AAA games right now, their PC ports specifically, are absolutely terrible. And hopefully this is just a fluke and a coincidence that they're one after the other bad. But I'm not holding out my hope. AAA games, I guess, as a whole, aren't entirely bad. There's still plenty of pretty good ones out there, and unfortunately, a lot of them have to be remakes right now. But the remakes are really good. They're still really darn good. And for the question about $70, I mean, I'm just shocked it took this long. I was expecting this. Genuinely was expecting this. I felt this a little bit while now having employees. Like now that I'm a boss that pays a W-2 to people, I've noticed quite a bit that it's easy to say someone like a McDonald's or something should be paying its workers a lot more. Absolutely. But for me, which is a smaller business, the Orchid 8 merch site, inflation, that stuff affects me, maybe not as much as my employees, but it still affects me. And so being able to give out like a certain livable wage is a lot harder than it would be for a multi-billion-dollar corporation. This level of inflation not only hits workers, but it hits small businesses and to an extent, even some medium businesses as well. So it can be kind of so $70. And I mean, AAA games, it's one thing. I'm not crying any tears for EA or Activision or something, but some like indie or middle ground games that are charging 30, 40, 50 now, like that's Doesn't quite surprise me. Anyway, that's that. Let's take a look at good old Hobotarian. Hobotarian has a comment saying, with everything today being about do the hustle and getting as much money as possible and then some, at what point is it enough? And what does that point look like for you? What does your retirement plan and goals look like? And what would you want to do when you retire from YouTube/Twitch or whatever career lays you upon your path as life goes on? It's a great question. Really, really good question, actually. In fact, that might be the only other question I answer today because it could take a while. Hustle culture is extremely toxic. I am a proponent, not a proponent, a symptom. I'm the way I am because of it. Hustle culture is also just not quite correct. People will talk about how you need to, sleepless nights, burning the midnight oil, all that other, alpha male guru crap. And the problem is that it's genuinely just bad advice, because sleep is the greatest thing that God ever created. And if you get proper sleep, your work is just better. Now, I've found that my work ethic has increased substantially by getting good sleep and regular exercise. I eat well, exercise like 5 to 6 days a week, and get 8 hours of sleep minimum every single day. I don't drink too much. I'll have like a weed edible every so often, but I don't really smoke. And I have become so much more, so much better at getting content out. My main channel is a little bit here or there. That's more writer's block, actually, me having a hard time making my scripts. But the second channel is consistent with videos. The streams are certainly not consistent, but I try to make them somewhat. I haven't streamed in a while. They're not super consistent, but I'm also managing an entire merchandise site now. And then also Adeptus Ridiculous and everything that goes along with Adric. And then all the meetings and travel I have to do. Like, I do a shitload of work, but because I get great sleep, eat well, go to the gym quite often, I also have like a kind of a time constraint, which makes me more effective. And if I told you you have all day to get this work done, you can spend all day doing it. But if I told you had 4 hours to get this work done, you'll generally find a way to get that work done more efficiently. And this is unfortunately something that bosses impose upon their employees often, and I don't like that. But for myself, for me, I don't have 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do all my work, because at 8 a.m. I wake up, go to the gym, eat some food, all kind of stuff. And then it's about 10 and I try to cut myself off at around 6 or so. So, I'm still around 8 to 9 to 10 hours a day on most days, but I'll still try to make it more efficient and try to be a little bit more, try to enjoy life a bit more, try to do more enjoyable things, try to go out more, because good mental health makes good content. I'm a Night Lords player. Morale is the most important thing ever. The morale of yourself, morale of your employees, morale of everyone. Getting a ton of money is certainly one of those situations that I struggle with talking about, because I myself am someone who has a pretty sizable amount of income. But I'm also, compared to the rest of the celebrities and stuff, a total nobody. Like, compared to the average person, I do very well for myself. Compared to the average big name YouTuber or streamer that gets like 10K plus viewers, or, I'm like barely anything compared to them. And they are barely anything compared to a major celebrity, like an actor who garners up between $1 to $100 million for their role, depending on how big they are and how important they are. So it really is difficult to determine where that line ends. Oh, and then you take them and you compare them to like billionaires, like the company billionaires, which is a whole other can of worms. That's kind of the issue that you say, at what point is it enough? At what point does that look like for me? When you chase money and material things, I don't think there will be a point where it is enough. Um, I think that's the natural problem with it, is that there will always be the next thing. And I struggle with this myself. I struggle with it in terms of real estate. I love homes. I love architecture, and I love to live in my homes. I like to do my best to really mold where I live, to be quite, enjoyable for me. And I recently bought a place in mid 2022, and it was kind of at the height of the housing market. So I paid more than I probably should, but my interest rate isn't terrible. So the monthly adds to be okay. Um, but despite me liking this place so much when I got it, it didn't take long for me to not necessarily be disenfranchised with it, but immediately go on to, damn, I like this place. This is really nice. But what's my next place gonna be like? And then I'm pretty sure after that, it's going to be the same thing again. Because I don't know if any of you guys do this. I do this a lot. I like to go on various, no, for me, it's Zillow. We have in America, we have a housing, um, I don't know, market purchasing website, whatever you want to call it, to look at houses. It's called Zillow. And Zillow, I like to go on there and search by price high to low in various areas. You just kind of, peruse like, ooh, $27 million in Beverly Hills, and ooh, 55 million beachfront property in Malibu, California, and all these kinds of things. It's just kind of fun to dream, because $54 million for a home is like unobtainable for anything besides some of the highest list actors, and, major corporations. But it's always fun to check it out and dream a little bit. But it does make you get this feeling of, even if I could do more than the average person could ever do. Let's say, let's take this for example. Let's say I pull off some $6 million home, crazy size, right? I guess not quite as crazy in California comparatively to other kinds of other places in the U.S., but still huge place, right? Crazy $6 million place. If you're chasing a place like that, I always worry about myself that if I am able to pull off that lifestyle, will I then just want the next $12 million place? And if I get that, will I want the 18 and the 24? We're going by magnitudes of six for some reason: 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, etc., and so on. And so I think at some point I'm going to need to really take a look at myself and try to force down those feelings, because I want to be successful in a lot of ways, but real estate's one of those ones that it's something I can die in, you know? And I'd like to have something that not only I can enjoy, but also my family. I don't know where my parents will be, my sister or others, when they're much older. And if I can have them pass away in extreme luxury, that would be kind of great. I would love to be able to share what I can get with my friends. I flew out to not Portland, Salem, Oregon recently for work. And when I was gone, I let my buddy like drive my car. I drive a Tesla at the moment. And I just let him drive and use my Tesla all throughout the weekend, just because like I'm not going to use it, and he wants to drive it because he likes the car, so he can drive it. Like, have fun, dude. Because it's fun to share that kind of stuff. What's the point of just hogging all of your income? Like it's fun to spend it around and do stuff and have a good time with friends. And so that's kind of half the reason why I want to, but get all these fancier stuff. But there is a point where you have to ask yourself, like, when is that going to end? Like, at what point can you say to yourself, nope, this is it. This is the end. I am staying here for the rest of my life. And I need to stop chasing. Because my self-worth should not be tied to income. My self-worth should not be tied to money, because I don't want it to be. I like to pride myself in thinking that I am better than the car I drive or the YouTube career I've created. And I like I like to keep those facts about myself mostly hidden. I don't tell people I do what I do unless they ask. Pretty much ever. Unless the conversation is brought up or someone asks me what I do, I don't really tell them until then. Because I don't like the initial one, stigma, and two, adjusting of persona. So many guys, especially older gentlemen, like late 40s, early 50s, put so much effort and emphasis on money, to the point where I end up feeling kind of self-conscious sometimes. Like when I drive up somewhere and I get out of something like a Tesla, and an older person around, say, early 50s or late 40s gets out of just, classic car, who knows, Honda Civic, whatever. I always go to Honda Civic. I always feel like I get stink eye from them. I always feel like I get this angry side eye, and I don't really know why. I'm not an aggressive driver, if that's your first thought. I'm actually a pretty grandma driver, if I'm being totally honest. But I feel, because I always think there's like that level of, I guess one could argue jealousy could be one thing, but just, or the thought of like, oh, did your dad buy the car for you? That kind of thing. Sure, I guess those could both be the options, but it feels different. It feels like there's this weighing up, like this dick measuring contest, but the dick is something to do with income. And I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I'm trying to do a lot for myself. Like my biggest goal in life is just to live as long as I can. I really like where I'm at right now. I like the people I'm around. I like my family, and I want to live long and healthy. And if you want to live for a long time, this is the reality of the world. You're going to need some cash. If you want to live for a long fucking time, you better start saving some money, because you're going to have to get surgeries, maybe treatments. You might need, like, if you want to, do cosmetic stuff, that's also part of it. But, if you want to be very healthy, you can run a lot. That's cool. But weightlifting is a huge part that helps reverse aging. And you got to pay for a gym. If you can't pay for the gym, you can pay for some weights. And depending on the gym, you might want to get a nicer gym. You might want to, there's always another thing, You don't need it, absolutely not, but there's always a step above. So, I just kind of want to be around for as long as I can and see what I can get around to do. Which kind of goes into that last part of that question. What does my retirement plan look like? I feel like I'll always be working in some way. I've always liked building, be like a builder. I think I've mentioned this maybe once or twice. But I like building up things, whether it's building up a YouTube channel with more people or views, building up a bank account with more money, or building a company with more people and customers. Just that creation is really fun to me. Maybe this has something to do with my extreme love for Legos when I was a young kid. And hey, Warhammer. I mean, hey, there it is. It's all coming back full circle. So I'm sure I'll be always making something. I found that I actually really like the operations part of managing. I like ideas and talking with people and working with them and their ideas and morale and the group. I like that a lot. I don't like the logistics, the finances, that kind of stuff. I find that really, really boring, and it kind of takes away the spirit of the actual, job. I feel like if there was oftentimes when people have a partnership in a company, a big one, normally one person is the really good logistical books person, and the other person is the creative idea guy. I feel like I do a lot better as the idea guy. So the other stuff is not quite as fun. So I feel like I might always have ideas or things I want to do as I go late into my life. I'm hoping that I retire on like a beachfront property somewhere down in SoCal. One of those abilities where you can leave out your back door and run for 20 seconds and bam, you're in the water. Unfortunately, those places all cost $25 million. So again, there's that part of the more issue. That's what I would like to end with, but I say that in my mind. I say I'd like that. That's where I want to end and retire. But then there's the question: like, is that it? Is after you do that, do you want to get a condo in Boston so you can travel more, or do you want to get like a winter house or a foresty mountain house over in Montana? And then again with the more issue, but. I feel like I'd like to maintain other types of companies. I'd love to try to make a video game at some point. Always wanted to write a novel. I just like to do stuff like that. I like to try to do creative things when I have the spark. I don't always have the spark, which is why my videos sometimes suck and why sometimes some of them are good. But I don't know. It's a whole lot of everything, isn't it? But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it works out. We'll see how it is. We'll see how I do mentally with everything. This is also all completely not discussing the part of a girl, am I going to get married and are kids a thing? I don't like kids. A lot of you know that quite well. I don't like children at all. But hey, I'm 27. A lot of guys weren't going to have kids when they were 27. Who knows? Who knows who I'm going to be settling down with? God knows what's the plan there. But hey, you never know. Anyway, thanks for listening. I realized about 4 minutes into this recording that my mic is too loud, so I'm gonna have to lower that. But yeah, it's I actually gotta consider making a second channel or a third channel for Fireside Bricky only. Do it every Friday so I don't forget. We'll see about that. Unfortunately, you can't get money from it. Like you can't automatically monetize it, which it's not the biggest deal, but it's something to think about. I might do it anyway. We'll see. Anyway, questions are in the Discord. Go ahead and place them. I'll hopefully get to this one again next week and hopefully be on time. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.